1974's Sundown is a novel in a long line of Gordon Lightfoot's single-songwriter style of folk albums. Sundown is, however, notable for being Lightfoot's most successful and perhaps most famous album. This album is rock solid, one of the most consistent albums I have ever listened to in terms of both quality and sound. Gordon Lightfoot's lyrics are quite descriptive and really help the listener's mind imagine the scene Lightfoot is trying to convey in a very vivid way. You can practically smell an ocean breeze while listening to High and Dry or 7 Island Suite, see rolling fields of green grass listening to Watchman's Gone, and feel snowflakes land on your skin on Circle of Steel. If this album's greatest strength is the vividness of everyday vignettes, then its greatest weakness is the other side of the same thing, the rather mundane subject matter. Lightfoot is able to make driving around, living by the country, or even having your child taken away by CPS sound magical. And indeed, this is an impressive accomplishment, especially that last one, but the songs do lack most of any short commentary to them, missing the bite of the enduring folk rock songs from the 1960s. Even the most political song, Circle of Steel, has a rather delicate point to it, although you could argue that this approach of arraying being overly blunt works to its advantage. Similarly, the instrumentation of this album is good and effective, but oftentimes mundane. Sometimes less is more, so the album is probably better off with most of the instrumentation being done by reliable session musicians as opposed to someone trying too hard to play overly flashily. In the end, what really matters aside from Lightfoot's lyrics is his voice. The man may be no Art Garfunkel, but he has a voice that is somewhere between the deeper voice of Johnny Cash and the lighter, softer voice of Paul Simon. Due to this, he has a pretty good range, being able to hit lighter notes, but also still sound pretty deep at other times. This allows him to have a smooth vocal versatility without sacrificing a weary age filling in his voice. Lightfoot's voice is able to serve all of his songs to their fullest, something which helps them go beyond just their subject matter. Now, before we go on to the song-by-song breakdown of this album, I do want to say Gordon Lightfoot passed away recently. Rest in peace, obviously, and I offer condolences to his family. He was a great songwriter and performer, and I actually wasn't, though, planning on doing this album review before he died, and I wasn't even planning on doing it after he died either, but some viewers of my channel, All Mind on Music, actually recommended this album, that I review this on my album review channel. And they requested it, basically. And so I'm like, oh, hey, I actually have that album. I guess I will review it here coming up. So yeah, I just sort of wanted to say that. I'm not really trying to, like, cash in on his passing. But I do think it is obviously maybe good to be talking about his work at this time as well. And discuss his songwriting legacy and maybe give a little bit more recognition to some of his stuff. You know, this is very popular back in the 70s, but I doubt very many people my age, like in their 20s today, have really probably sat down and listened to this, especially as the full album. Maybe they've heard the song Sundown or Carefree Highway, but here in America, I don't think people probably listen to this album all that much anymore, except nostalgic, kind of maybe older people. But it is a really good album, and I will, of course, go song by song here in just a minute. I do, of course, want to encourage everyone to subscribe to my channel, because I do review albums just like I'm doing in this video. So, without further ado, let's get on to the song-by-song breakdown. Somewhere U.S.A. is a good way to start off the album. The song is one of a weary traveler roaming the United States. The narrator is trying to charm a woman in a bar with his smooth talking. He says that the woman he already has would not mind, although it isn't clear if this is actually true or not, perhaps just an excuse. The singer muses on the ultimate futility of the type of life he leads, but continues to believe that good times should be had wherever they can be found. The song has a very laid-back and relaxed feel to it. Gordon Lightfoot's vocals are on great form here, and the backing is light yet effective and very soothing. The music matches the mood of the song about this man trying to get a woman to lower her guard while out in the middle of nowhere. High and Dry is a nautical song that milks the age-old ship-to-woman comparison as its backbone. The narrator of the song is a man who steers the ship and feels a deep, almost romantic relationship with his ship. The man cares for his ship and feels that only he can control her properly. He worries that one day someone else will steal the ship and hopes that the ship is not damaged or ran ashore by whoever follows him. Eventually, the man grows old, and his ship ends up being ran ashore by a younger man. It is a catchy little song on a rather standard theme. The lyrics flow well, and the guitar is once again well played. The song features somewhat uninspired backing vocals, also by Lightfoot's then girlfriend. Seven Island Suite is at 6 minutes the longest song of the album. While it remains pretty strong, Lightfoot's strength does tend to lie in more snappy, shorter songs. Musically, the song has a slightly European sound to it. There is a light horn section in the backing, and there is a Moog synthesizer that imitates bagpipes at key moments in the song. This is one of the best instrumentated songs on the album, but also one of the less memorable sets of lyrics, partly due to lack of a concise chorus, as well as due to the song's length and number of verses. The song starts with a very good set of verses describing a nature scene near a bay with 7 islands. The lyrics of the music set a very peaceful, natural feeling, really painting the picture of this rural coastline. Before long, Lightfoot starts to slip into a cliched spiel about how living in a simple rural lifestyle is better than living in a busy city, or as a rich man who can't trust anyone. While I did earlier criticize the album at times for being somewhat hollow in terms of message, I did not mean it should be an overly preachy and cliched manner such as this. The cliches of the later verses are thankfully, however, offset by the ending of the song, recalling the more natural and non-preachy imagery of the song's opening. Circle of Still is perhaps the most affecting lyric on the album. The song is a sad story of an uncertain future. The first verse opens with a comparison of life to a game of chance, using a still circle as a representation of this, sort of like a roulette wheel or something. Lightfoot sets the scene, then, of a sleepy town on a snowy Christmas evening. The next verses are about the birth of a child to a poor woman who is on welfare. Next door, her neighbors are having a jubilant Christmas party, but this woman is unhappy because she has been left with a dilemma. Although her child is born healthy, she is in poor living conditions and seems to have an alcoholism problem. The child's father is in prison for having stolen to provide for him and his wife due to their impoverished status. The woman believes that certain child protection services, or whatever the Canadian equivalent of that is, because hell if I know, will take away her child due to her inability to care for them. On the last verse, the song continues on with its bedding metaphor. While most of this album is relatively apolitical compared to folk rock artists like Bob Dylan, Simon & Garfunkel, or Buffalo Springfield, this song does have a mildly political message to it. The song never hammers you over the head with its message, but it is very much a song about impoverished people being cast in a sympathetic light. The metaphor about the will seems to indicate that Lightfoot believes that the woman and the child might be able to do quite well if they had the luck to be born into different circumstances. Is There Anyone Home is probably the weakest song of the album, both lyrically and musically. There isn't too much a note about the backing at all. The lyrics are about Lightfoot asking if there's anyone in a house he is outside, but this also seems to be a sort of a metaphor for him trying to get whoever the subject of the song is to open their heart to him. The Watchman's Gone is a song during which Lightfoot asserts that the Watchman is out dealing with something else, and this has given him an opening to hop on a train as a hobo. This song belies a couple of different meanings, however. The metaphor of the Watchman being out and the narrator being able to ride away on a train seems to be a metaphor for a wider feeling of freedom, somewhat similar to the lyrics of the Steely Dan song Changing of the Guard. But another meaning of the song seems to have is about dying. Riding away seems to be a metaphor for dying, perhaps passing away peacefully. Earlier on in the song, Lightfoot asks the person he is singing to plant a flower for him, which seems to be an urging to be remembered after he dies. Later on in the song, he says if he is found dead, turn him to the sky, which seems to be sort of the plans for his body. The fifth verse, in particular, seems to make the most sense. Lightfoot says to the person he is leaving behind to remember that the Watchman is always there. The implication is that either God or Satan is the Watchman, and that Lightfoot is escaping from life behind their back, and that here at the end is the only time he feels truly free. Sundown is a song about a man's relationship with a woman. Lightfoot believes that the woman is cheating on him, but also seems to recognize that the other men are also probably being seduced by her in the same way as he was, and are also victims of her ways. Still, despite Lightfoot's sympathy towards the other men, he is overly jealous and most likely overly suspicious of his girlfriend as well. His statements of better take care carry an unspoken threat with it, quite probably a violent one. His statements on feeling like he is winning while losing, could be about coming back to the woman when they make up, or it could be about him trying too hard to control her. All this makes for what is, despite its folksy and sad-sounding vocal, a rather morally grey-sounding song, one of which is apparently based on the personal problems Gordon Lightfoot was himself facing at the time of its writing. Carefree Highway is another one of the sad Wonderwall songs. In this song, Lightfoot is a man who is wandering away from home after a failed romance with a woman. The man spends his time traveling around, reminiscing happily on his romance, wondering if she ever does the same. The man seems to spend his time wandering around on his carefree highway as a way to pretend that he is still lost in romance, as opposed to going home and facing up to the sad fact that it is over. Still, later on in the same song, the man asserts that his wanderings are him trying to get away and forget about his romance. While these may seem contradictory, they both seem to be true at the same time. The song has a good chorus and a nice, peaceful, but somewhat melancholy feel, much like several of the other songs on the album. The list has a lot more upbeat sounding and even a little bit poppy of a backing guitar part. It's a very sweet and upbeat sound, and the vocal is similarly happy sounding and also a little bit cheeky. Lyrically, the song is like a more playful version of Somewhere U.S.A., being basically Lightfoot giving a come on to a girl, asking her to have a good time with him before he has to finish taking care of the rest of the business on his list. Too Late for Prayin is a bit of a sad and final note to end the album on. Tonally dissonant with the album's previous song, Too Late for Prayin is a song where Lightfoot is talking to God, but also feels that to some degree what he is doing is not helping. He reflects on his childhood and seems to believe that things are worse for the children of today. Unlike a lot of people who talk about the good old days, he seems to actually have sympathy for the children as opposed to finding random excuses to blame them. Lightfoot reflects that for every happy child there seems to be more unhappy ones, perhaps alluding to Circle of Still. He goes on to say that many say it's too late for praying to do anything. You can hear a sort of sad resignation in Lightfoot's voice as he sings this. However, towards the end of the song, he comes to a conclusion to try to keep on going and trying to live in hope, and believe that the good in people might make tomorrow a better place than today, even if he believes today is worse than the past. He also appears to resolve to keep praying, even though he is unsure if it will actually help. The album ends on a relatively sullen note, even with the song's slightly more positive ending of looking towards the future. The placement of this song on the album as the album's last track makes sense, and it works well as an album closer. Okay, so here it is. Before we go on to the final, obviously, song rankings and the final album ranking, as always, I do a little review of sort of the sleeve. I actually got this album about a year ago when a local store was going out of business, and I got it really cheap for probably $1 or less. So as you can see, the sleeve isn't in the greatest shape, but the record is actually in quite good shape. There's almost no crackle at all on it, so it's quite good, actually. This is also an album that has really good mastering, actually, a very good mixing, so I like that, too. So, here on the front, as I said, you could see it has some wing wear and whatever. It's seen better days, but it's overall a pretty nice cover. It's a pretty good picture going Lightfoot here. He's nice and kind of country, folksy looking. He's singing some Hey, seems to be made of inside the born. He's got his guitar with him. There he is. He's got sandals. He's got denim shorts. He's got a cigarette. I'll have to admit, I'm not quite sure what's up with his armband. It's kind of a nice armband, but it's not overly. It looks a little bit more kind of fantasy compared to the more kind of folksy, country vibe the rest of this album has going on. But overall, it is a pretty good picture of the man, and I quite like it, actually. This sort of down-to-earth kind of aesthetic. It's a very well-taken picture. Now, the back, I don't understand the back. There is no back, really. It's just basically the list of songs and the credits. However, the songs are all basically completely out of order. There is Somewhere U.S.A., the fourth track on the album. That's Too Late for Prayin, the last track on the album. And they're all just mixed up here in between. I really don't like that. I don't understand. You can't check the track listing on the label when the record is actually playing, really. So, I don't understand why, this isn't the only album to have had its track listing out of order on the sleeve, but I just never really understood why they do this sort of thing. It seems quite stupid to me. I also like how Gordon Lightfoot feels the need to credit himself in the credits of each individual song, even though it should be quite apparent that he's singing each song because this is literally a Golden Lightfoot album. So that sounds a little strange. And then, of course, you got the sort of Warner Reprise Lionel with that kind of Yale-looking picture on one end. And the ad for the samples above end. At some point I'm thinking about doing actually a video on ads on Lionels, but I kind of want one of these sample records at some point. Actually, you have kind of a weird mixture of stuff on them. So yeah, there it is. The sleeve, a nice front cover, and a trash back cover. Kind of an odd mixture. Okay, and for my final rankings of the songs, I give Sundown U.S.A. 8 out of 10. High and Dry, 7 out of 10. 7 Island Suite, 7 out of 10. Circle of Steel, 8 out of 10. Is There Anyone Home, 5 out of 10. The Watchman's Gone, 7 out of 10. Sundown, 7 out of 10. Carefree Highway, 7 out of 10. The List, 7 out of 10. And Too Late for Prayin, 6 out of 10. And for my top 3 recommended songs from this album, I give Somewhere USA, Circle of Steel, and Sundown. And overall, I'm giving the album a 7 out of 10, but if you're really into, like, folk, you can probably bump that up, I think, to an 8 out of 10, and honestly, I can probably bump this up to an 8 out of 10, depending on what mood I'm in on any given day, because, although, as I said, it is less, memorable than, you know, some of the more politically charged sort of folk songs and folk albums of, like, the 60s, it is a very through and through consistent album, with a very soothing kind of sound to it. It's well sung, it's well delivered by the session musicians, and it overall works well together. The songs, they do vary on theme some, but they're all in a very consistent style. As I said, this is probably the most consistent album I've reviewed, both in terms of sound and quality. Like, there isn't huge gaps in, like, sound or style on any of this. This is very consistent. If you like Golden Lightfoot, if you like folk, you really can't do much better than this, because, as I said, this is a very solid, complete package. You get basically what you pay for. Everything here is of a pretty consistent quality. There's nothing that's just like some random trash thrown in there. If you like this video, please be sure to like and reply and let me know what you think of this album, or if you're planning on listening to it after I reviewed it, or, you know, just generally, or whatever. Or have any other recommendations of albums that I should review. As I said, this album is being reviewed because somebody recommended I review it, even though I already had this album. And please comment and like this video if you know, liked it, or comment if you didn't like it, actually, if you think I said something that, you know, is an opinion you didn't agree with. I'm always open to hearing more discussion. I honestly like hearing from people who have slightly different opinions of mine, or even radically different opinions of mine. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree, of course, but I do like hearing that. Please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a great deal. And I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you with the next video.